What's up, everyone? Welcome into a new edition of Celtics Beat. I guess this is All-Star Break edition. Gives us a nice, clean few days, though, to go back, dissect, check everything out. And certainly we want to hear from you guys. Get in on the comment section, the chat, if you're watching the live video, all that good stuff. Rate, review on iTunes. We love you for being here each and every week. And this guy, we always love when he is part of things. Cedric Maxwell, of course, I said it off the top of the show, NBA Finals MVP. He's obviously a multiple-time champ. He is an author. He is a part of the CLNS family. He is best known, of course, as an analyst on the Celtics Radio Network. I'm Adam Kaufman. We thank you for being here. Max, how are you, man?
Here's the thing you say immediately, and this is, I absolutely love this. You said best known for being a broadcaster. Wasn't that best known for being a player at one time?
Well, it depends on the honestly. If I'm being candid here with you, Max, sort of depends on the age demographic of who's listening, right?
That is so true, and I find that to be so unique in the fact that I think I was in the Garden yesterday, and I was in the Legends Club, and I was having dinner with some clients who were there. I was doing something for the Celtics, and they're scrolling down, and they have pictures of different players on the wall, and it comes to me, and it shows my picture. My name is spelled wrong. They got a K on Cedric.
No, at the Garden.
This is in the Garden. I said, who do I need to talk to? Straighten that out.
How does that happen?
So I'm not sure. You know, you can put these things in perspective, but that's one of them that makes you going, yeah.
That's an intern somebody had to go talk to you after the fact.
Know your role, okay? It would never. Jason Tatum's name would never be spelled wrong.
That's right. You know what though? It is true because I was watching. I don't know. This was weeks ago at this point when it originally aired. And I don't know if you saw it. If you didn't, it's awesome. But I think it was Fox FS1 had put out a documentary on John Madden. It was called All Madden, and as it turned out, it aired just a couple days before he passed away. So hopefully he got the opportunity to see it and hear everybody just glow about his life. But there are so many people, let's say, around my age or certainly younger, that just, they associate John Madden as a broadcaster first, the Madden video game. People don't think of him as, a Hall of Fame coach. You know what I mean? So it's all sort of when people come upon you, I guess.
That really is true. And I've so many different titles come. Sometimes you hear people say, well, that guy right there, he does television. Or Cedric Maxwell is doing the radio. Or another one you'll hear is always, I'll get introduced to a younger fan, and the dad or the mom will say, you know what, he played with Larry Bird. And I would immediately straighten him. I'm like, son, Larry Bird played with me.
That's right.
So it's always in fun. I think it's so cool when I hear we talk about broadcasting and people I've known now more as a broadcaster than I was a player, because obviously I played with the Celtics for 8 years, but I've been broadcasting with the Celtics now for 26 years.
My goodness.
So my lifespan goes a lot longer in broadcasting than it does those two banners and my retired jersey up at the top of the field up there.
That's going to take us full circle here a little bit later in the show. I want to get into some stuff relating to the fact that those multiple banners and your number up there in the rafters and all of it, but you might even know where I'm going, but we'll come back to it a little bit later. We're going to talk plenty about this team, obviously, and what's gone on of late, wins in 9 out of 10. But just first off with the All-Star break here, I feel like historically, and you've been coming on this show for years, historically, this is about the time of the year that, you'd be, at least pre-COVID times, you'd be heading overseas, you'd be getting some new threads, new suits for TV and everything, obviously going back home to Charlotte. What are the plans?
Plans actually are they're today about 5 o'clock, taking the flight, going to Charlotte, and just kind of going down there to hang out with my friends. I have my daughter and my baby boy are down there, and my granddaughter. So I just kind of go down there, just hang out and just detox away from the game. For these next, as Sean Grandy surprising me the other day was talking about this. We had about 20 games to go. I'm like, whoa, I thought we had 30 or so. So with 20 games to go now, I see it's a sprint towards the finish line.
So I was just going to say that for all the people that like we all do this in sports, no matter the sport, you get to an all-star game, at least other than football anyway, you get to an all-star game and it's, all right, well, that's the first half of the year. Let's talk about it. Like, no, Celtics right now are 34-26. They're 73% of the way through the year. They're effectively 3/4 of the way through the year, Max. So it's, when this team, when you, Grandy, everybody comes back in a little less than a week's time at this point for the, unofficial second half, it's the stretch run at this point for the postseason and trying to make the playoffs, avoiding the play-in tournament. Right now, Boston is sitting 6th in the East, half game clear of that play-in tournament, 2.5 games out of third. Of course, they've won 9 out of 10, should have been a 10-game winning streak going into the break. 16 out of 21. Just, we won't really go into all the specifics of that disappointing loss to Detroit. You and I were talking a little bit about it off air. I think anyone who watched it knows, and not to make excuses, but to some degree make excuses, it was a trap game. You don't have Rob Williams, you don't have Marcus Smart. So you're down 2 of your starters. It's the second half of the back-to-back. You had to travel, obviously. You go from blowing out Philadelphia by damn near 50 points to going back home, where you take away excuses, unless you want to include Detroit shooting 53% from three and having one of its best games of the year, despite how bad that team is. And we are talking about one of the worst teams in the NBA this year, who had come in with 8 straight losses. C's reverted back to some old bad habits. There were just, it was a sloppy game. It was kind of an ugly performance. But I think, and this is what I'm gearing up to here, for me, it was much more of a one-off than it was like that 9-game winning streak was a mirage. This is who they are again.
Yeah, I believe that. I think if you look at the way they played and what they hang their hat on is playing on the defensive end. Certain things have happened with this team, and I'm sure I'm probably jumping the gun, and we'll talk about this, is the fact that why has this happened? Why have you started playing so well? Well, to me, it started out basically with Tatum and Brown addressing an issue which has always been in the room. Can these two guys coexist? And when they came out, and I think I remember Tatum saying, look, we like each other, and we're going to find a way to make this thing work. Marcus Smart saying a couple of things about, passing the basketball. Since then, and then believing in what Ime has said, purposely getting the extra pass. And then Sean Grandy, my broadcast partner, said this, and he said, you're looking at Tatum and Brown, and you said, wow, they need one more star to go with them. And then you look around and he said, is Rob Williams that star now? Mm-hmm. Is he that guy developing in front of us, blocking shots, rebounding, running the floor? So the transition of this team has happened because of all those things. And Grant Williams playing extremely well, where he's the second best in the league in field goal in 3-point percentage. You never put that in. So I mean, just it was a lot of things, and then put on top of that Brad Stevens. As you and I know, and people around here, when this team was playing poorly, it was a knee-jerk reaction was to trade everybody. Do this, do that. But Brad didn't do that. Now there's a knee-jerk reaction with this team playing well, then why don't you just stay pat? Well, he didn't do that, and he changed. And I think he is deliberate. He's a thinker. And as I said before with Brad Stevens, who would know this team better than Brad Stevens in buying the groceries, and the fact that he had this team and coached this team for as long as he did. So he would know the strengths and weaknesses of this team, unlike anybody else.
Let's go step by step, Max, with some of the things that you just talked about. And first and foremost, because this probably gets the most airtime, whether it's, here among the talking heads, radio, TV. And I think, it's real easy for someone like me, let's say, to say, well, the Tatum and Brown, they kind of had this come to Jesus, and they got together and they talked, and they, like you said, they heard everything that everyone, Kendrick Perkins and others, was saying about them, and separate them, and one of them's got to go, or these guys can't coexist, they can't get along, like Kevin Garnett years ago saying they were redundant to one another. It's easy for, again, sort of those of us with simple minds, to look at it and just say, well, Brown and Tatum, they figured it out, man. They got on the same page. I want to go deeper than that because you are, I mean, you're a perfect person to ask. You played the game at a professional level, at a very high level, at a finals MVP level, at a get your damn number retired level. How did they do it on the court? How did Brown and Tatum specifically, I don't care what conversations happen in the locker room of, look, we got to make this work. We got to figure this out. We want this. We want this for each other. We like each other. How do they go out on the court and make whatever those conversations are translate to winning basketball?
I think that the big thing that they've done, and Tatum in particular, is like, especially in Brown early in games, when he gets hot, you don't go away from him, or vice versa. And neither one of the guys now seems to be anxious about getting a shot. I haven't had a shot, and 7, 8 times down in the first early in the game, realizing that they are volume shooters. So they're going to get 5, 6 shots in a row. So I think they were saying, okay, we're going to get the best shot for whatever person is out there. So I think the level of being anxious is over with those two guys. And they believe that if one guy is hot, then that's going to allow the other guy to have less pressure on him in the basketball game on the defensive end.
We had Ian Thompson on with us last week, and one of the things that we got into was, what you alluded to here with Brad Stevens, obviously knowing this team as well as anybody and going out and buying the groceries. How does he best want to surround those two stars? And what I mean by that is, fans have this pipe dream of like Bradley Beal or Damian Lillard or whomever it is, like random superstar X in the NBA coming in this offseason and helping to lift this team to yet another level. If, like you said, we're not to default to like, well, maybe Rob Williams could be that guy. And I asked Ian, how does Brad want to do this? Is it better to get another third star in here and you're giving up a package of guys, salaries, TPE, whatever to make it work? Or do you want sort of more of the Derrick White types in the sense that guys that maybe they're not stars, but they know how to play the game. They make the right decisions. They're smart, high IQ basketball players that again can play at a high level and come in and just help lift the collective, as opposed to that one guy that can drop 30 any given night.
I believe the narrative that you painted with Derrick White is probably the best one, because you have two dynamic players here already in Brown and Tatum. And I think what you want to do is just kind of fill in. It's like if you have a window and you have a leak in it, you don't tear the pane down. What you do is you put putty up there and you kind of seal it. And I think that when you get those kind of players, and another thing about it, when you get an established guy, and say it was Dame Lillard, I don't know what kind of deals are going to be out there, but say it's Dame Lillard, you start looking at age. Right now, Brown and Tatum are growing together. And these are two young dynamic players. Rob Williams, young. Marcus Smart, young. So you got your core unit right now of young players who like each other. They've done something here lately which has surprised me. They lift weights after each and every game. That to me, I didn't. And they have this rap music going. I couldn't tell you a song out there, whatever they're doing, but they had this rap music going. They're lifting weights. They seem happy. And I think it's a certain amount of camaraderie which has come back to this team. It's almost like when I watched them do that, it's like almost like a college environment. And everybody's trying to pull for each other instead of over the last couple of years, like, look, I didn't get mine or he didn't get his. And so that's going to make us, we're not going to be good until I get mine.
It's true, Max, and I don't need to tell you this. You're watching the games not only in greater sum, but closer than obviously me or the average person. The last year and a half, 2 years, I mean, watching this team has been an inconsistently enjoyable experience. Let's put it that way. It's obviously it's been miserable more often than not from a fan perspective of, man, like there's so much talent there. Why aren't they just figuring it out? To where obviously over the last, few weeks, like I said, 16-5 over their last 21, playing really well. It's all of a sudden become a, man, like it's borderline appointment viewing. It's like your favorite show is coming on TV. You're looking forward to it. You mentioned obviously, first and foremost, Tatum and Brown, second to that, obviously the the defense. Although the defense has been playing at an extremely high level, damn near, tops in the NBA all year long. It's been phenomenal. Going sort of to that next tier, what do you associate what this turnaround has come from? Is to me it's a collective of things that I can happily rattle off for you, but your perspective, what's taken us from where this team was just floundering around 500 much of the year to where we are now, to where this team is 8 games up.
I believe in exactly what you said. I think that this team has, to a man, they've come together and they enjoy playing with each other. They distribute the basketball. You have a leader defensively in Marcus Smart. You have a leader defensively as when you watch some of the things Rob Williams is able to play. I marvel when I think of Grant Williams, his basketball IQ. Did you and I or anybody see Grant Williams becoming this 3-point threat, able to up fake a guy, take a sidestep, and then still hit a three? There's so many things, and you watch that. And Al Horford kind of rounded himself back into to playing shape.
Mm-hmm.
And again, just what to me is more like what Brad has done. And Ime, in particular, your head coach, ripped that band-aids off of look, as Brad used to say, look, put that on me. That's my bad. We didn't have these guys. No, Ime goes, that's his bad. And we told him, and this is how we started, and making the players take a little bit more ownership of their actions. And I happen to like that. And that's how Brad ended up hiring Ime, because you could, at the first press conference, Ime kind of dug at Brad a little bit about this team not passing the basketball. Mm-hmm. And also he said, look, I am coming here, and I talked to Tatum, I talked to Brown, and they want to be coached hard. And so does that mean holding them accountable? I think it has. And we don't see, a year ago, we see Jason Tatum on every play he went down. I got hit. I got something happened. He hit me, or just.
In fairness, there's been a good amount of that this year too.
Well, I think he's changed. He's dropped part of it. It's like back for a while, it was every play. Score, don't score, whatever. Now it's gotten down to maybe 30% where it goes to the basket, he gets hit, and but now it's not as much in your face. And I think part of that is because of Ime being around.
What kind of growth have you seen with Ime over the last, again, few weeks, months since this turnaround? Because, I don't need to tell you, you've been on this show talking about it. Over the course of what was the first half of the year, there was a lot of, irrational fans out there on social media with the Fire Ime hashtags. We were never in the Fire Ime camp over here on this show. That's crazy. You had to give him a little time, obviously, to get things figured out, to implement his system, to get guys to fully buy in. And you just don't fire a first-year head coach half a season in. You give him a year and a half or something like that and see how it works out. So that was never really a talking point. But clearly, he's got this team playing much, much better than it was. And you could mix in, the schedule kind of went to crap for a little while, and the Celtics, to their credit, took advantage. They were blowing out bad teams. Now they're starting to beat some good teams, the Detroit game notwithstanding. Obviously, the team, largely fully healthy during the winning streak, aside from when Smart and Rob were unavailable there at the very end. So that plays into it, continuity and all these things that we've said this team needs: sustained health and rhythm over a few week stretch, and let's see what they can be. Well, now we're seeing it. What do you how much of that goes to Ime and his development as a coach?
I think a lot of it does, because we heard people for a while saying, how could you bring a rookie coach in here? He doesn't know what he's doing. The system isn't right. People have backed away from that. And I think that he is showing, if you watch him, he is showing more command out there as a coach. It's not nothing he's saying, but I can feel it. And I can see how the players look at him for guidance. And because of that, I think that that's the growth that I look at him as a coach, not necessarily X's and O's, but also distributing guys, giving them time. because you can't play with so many guys in a lineup. You want to play everybody, but he had got to a point. Ime was playing maybe 8 guys, 9 guys, and everybody else has to sit and watch. And because of that rotation, you might get some people on the bench who are, might be a little uneasy because they didn't get a chance to play. But he's been playing to win, and his best opportunities are playing 8, 9 guys, not worrying about the other 5 or 6 guys on the bench who didn't get a chance to play.
So, Max, I think what everybody's wondering, we're all wondering, and we're going to wait and find out is this sustainable? Again, the Detroit game being a one-off. So the previous 9 games, and I don't mean winning by an average of 20 points or something like that, but the things that the team was doing right and doing well. And again, the continuity and health is always an X factor. Is this run, to where all of a sudden people are lifting that ceiling of where they thought this team could go? Is this sustainable?
Defense is always sustainable because it's about effort. And if you give that maximum effort, then you're going to get those maximum results. Shooting the ball can come and go. When I looked at this team, and I've said this many, many times, when they decide they're going to out-defend you, they win their share of games. When they decide they're going to outshoot you, they lose those games. And last night would be one of those examples. They never really out-defended Detroit in the game last night. Whereas most games you've seen in the last couple of weeks, they've defended at such an extraordinary pace that the other team never really had a chance, really. I mean, you think about the Philadelphia game, Philly was down by 20 before you could blink your eye. And then they're trying to battle to get back in. Most teams, the Celtics have been ahead with most teams this year, especially during this refound energy of just playing the game at a very high level and consistent level.
Over the course of the year, I feel like anytime things have gone well, and what I mean by that is like winning 2 out of 3, 3 out of 4, nothing like what we've seen over the last few weeks. We've started to have conversations about sort of, again, reshaping what we believe this team can be. And I've always said, whether I've offered it or been asked, it's been, to me, this is a team that it could swing either way. Like they could make the play-in tournament and not reach the playoffs. They could, go to certainly the first round, the second round. And if everything broke perfectly right, I could see them, losing in the conference finals. I still don't view them as the team that could represent the East, that could make the NBA finals. With what we've seen as again, over these last few weeks, what's the perfect scenario for this team? What's the perfect ceiling for this group? Do they have enough to truly be a contender?
I'm like you. I don't believe it yet. I still think they have a lot of growth from their coaches to the players, everybody around. Their ceiling for me, it was almost like you said before. I said if they could get to the conference finals, I think that would be the gem of gems, and then kind of build from there. So you think they have a young Brown, they have a young Tatum, Smart, they have these pieces which are going to grow together collectively and become that team that could formulate and possibly win a championship. But you're going to have a couple of more, in my camp, a couple of more dogs in there, a couple more guys who will gnaw your arm off, such that coyote love, where a guy is with a woman and say he doesn't want to move, and all of a sudden, I don't want to move because she might move, and he just gnaws his arm off. Okay, I can get out of bed now.
Yeah.
I mean, that same thing. They got to have those dogs, right? Really would gnaw their arms off to be into a winning situation.
We've talked a lot about this team. Again, I've used the term as a collective. Individually, though, Derrick White, you and I, we've not had a chance to discuss Derrick White yet, who came in at the trade deadline. And overall, I know he wasn't great against Detroit. He had that huge steal, obviously, Marcus Smart winning plays-esque, and unfortunately, Jason Tatum couldn't bury the winning jumper. But overall, it wasn't a great game for him necessarily against Detroit. But the prior few, he was terrific. He's got in those 3 games, like a plus 64 rating overall. Not shooting the ball as well as we'd hope, and I still think that'll come. I'm not worried about it or anything like that. Incredibly small sample, but I think the biggest thing is that he is just, whether it's the familiarity with Brown, Tatum, Smart from FIBA, playing obviously for Ime, as well as assistant Will Hardy in San Antonio. He's fit in so seamlessly. Has all of this worked out better than you expected, quicker than you expected?
Well, I think it's kind of worked out better than I expected. I talked to him briefly coming down the elevator in Philadelphia a couple of days ago. And I talked about that. You've been traded. He said, "Now I've been traded before." He said, "Man," he said, "Greg Popovich, your coach of San Antonio, calls him up and said, I need to come down to your room." And he said, "Oh my God," like in your mind, like what happened or what's going to happen? He said, he paced and paced and paced, and he said, finally Greg came down and said, "We just traded you." And and the next question always, where?
Right.
And he said, "Boston." And he said, "Wow," and I think he felt good about playing with Brown. Felt good about playing with Tatum. This was his basketball IQ is high. Another thing which people don't realize is just you look at his family. He has a wife that's pregnant, and so you've just told that guy that you got to go.
Yeah.
And in the NBA, let me give you a little thing here. When you get traded to another team, and it was during my time, it might still be now, but they give you 2 weeks that the team picks up your room at a local hotel. I'm not sure where you're staying at, but at a local hotel for a week or two, just to get adjusted. So that and trying to learn the city, trying to learn how to get to practice. Like you think these things because he's been here to Boston many times before, but you realize you don't know jack crap until you actually live in that city. And that was me when I got traded to Houston. That was me when I was with the Clippers. I had to kind of learn my way around. It was just not going to the arena anymore. And I think he's pleasantly surprised about Boston.
What about on the court? What have you seen that you really like so far?
Basketball IQ is good. Anticipation is good. Willing and able to shoot the ball, good. The results haven't been as good at him knocking down shots, but that will come. And it will come because he is going to, his mental game is really tough. And in talking to him, I said, basketball, he said, yep, basketball is just basketball. So if I cut, if I move, if I go to do almost what I did in San Antonio, go find certain spots to stand in and be ready to knock the shots down when they come to me, I'm going to be 10 paces ahead of the crowd. So I think that, that has been an easy transition for him.
What'd you think of Daniel Theis coming back? And I know we haven't seen much of him yet, but we know what Daniel Theis brings. He was here, forever before obviously getting dealt to originally Chicago and then signs with Houston, finds his way back here. He got his payday. He joked when he was asked about it. Everything, kind of worked out for him, obviously. But now he comes back in and you blow out some bodies that either didn't fit or certainly weren't part of any sort of future, whether it's Enes Kanter and Bruno Fernando and some of those other guys. Theis coming back in, we'll see what kind of role he specifically has, because as you noted before, Ime likes to play with maybe a shorter rotation than Brad typically did during regular seasons. But, what did you think of this move, especially as another guy that, he's got some term left on his deal?
Well, that's the one. You got term left on his deal. I think it's his option, player option. So you have him wrapped up for a little bit longer. The biggest thing about Daniel Theis, he comes back and plays with 2 guys he's played with over the maybe 4 or 5 guys he's played with over the years. He played with Rob Williams. He knows he set great picks with Marcus Smart. Tatum and Brown love him as a defender and a guy can shoot the ball and knock down shots from the outside. So
Horford.
Horford. All this is a very, very familiar environment to Daniel Theis. And if you're a player to come back to the familiar, once you went to Chicago, and then Chicago is completely different from Boston. Then you go to from Chicago, you go down and you're in Texas, and it's like, and then you finally come back to Boston. Now you're a general area that you first came in on, and you're really comfortable. So I like what's happening right now with Daniel Tice.
So as you look ahead, then this is sort of the next question for Celtics fans. We got a little time anyway for this to play itself out, but the buyout market, we'll see what guys become available, who ends up getting cut loose. We're starting to see it, like Goran Dragic is, a name that, briefly became available even as recently as last night, like Tristan Thompson. Rick Carlisle says, yeah, we're waiving him. He's going to Chicago after he played a pretty good game for Indiana and was around for all of about a week. Celtics have 3 roster spots to fill. And that's not to say, Max, that they have to fill them all. They had 5. They had to bring up a couple of guys immediately. So Sam Hauser and Luke Cornett found their way onto Boston's roster. And we'll see if Hauser in particular is someone that really gets an opportunity, because this guy can shoot. But with these 3 available roster spots, anybody that you're thinking could become available in the buyout market, who you think would just be a perfect addition here?
Wow. That is really a very good question. The buyout market, what do you need here and on this team? Your bigs are really good. Tatum and Brown, I think you need a quality backup to either one of those guys, because you're gonna always have one of them on the floor. I would love to have something like that. You don't even look at bigs anymore, like a Drummond. As much as I like him, as talented as he is, he doesn't fit the scheme for this
Yeah.
team. So
Remember when everyone was pining all over DeMarcus Cousins? How many times has he become available since?
well, you give him this other thing too with Marcus with the Marcus Cousins is the fact that he also tore his Achilles twice.
Yeah.
So his ability to do what he did one time before is long gone now. So you have a completely different player. If he was as healthy and stayed healthy, then you wouldn't. I don't think you have a question about this because of who he is as a player and what he can bring to the table. He can knock down shots. He rebounds the basketball, and what we know, he's mean as a doggone junkyard dog, and I like him.
Are you one of those that would really like to see Isaiah Thomas get another opportunity here, or to you feel like you've seen enough of what again, unfortunately, this is not a personal attack on him. This is just a professional reality. You've seen enough of what he is now, based on all the different places that he's gotten an opportunity since, that you're kind of, I'm good. That's not a priority.
Well, for this team, I don't think it's a priority. Of having guards and shooting guards. You got guys who can put the ball in the hole. And there's times when you look at him, Isaiah, he becomes a liability on the defensive end. So uh, I've never seen a crowd base connect as well as they did with Marcus Smart. But at the same time, excuse me, not Marcus Smart, but talking about Isaiah Thomas, never seen a crowd base connect like that with the IT time. It's my time, full court. I've never seen a fan base connect. But I think also that time of what he did and his role and what teams like and what they won't do now, I don't think it fits the bill for what the Celtics want to grow into.
So what does this team need? I know you talked about more help on the wing to kind of, supplement or just help out Tatum and Brown, but is it shooting? Like, obviously this team has been making more shots, shooting a lot better over the last few weeks. A field goal percentage is up, effective field goal percentage, getting into the analytics and all of that. But I don't know, could a guy that's right there, Sam Hauser, I know he can't defend, but is he a guy that you'd like to see getting an opportunity just to be something of a spark off the bench?
Well, when you get a guy like him that can shoot the basketball, that is a spark. That's a weapon that you're able to bring in. A guy can knock down shots. Well, you think about over the last couple of years, the Celtics have looked at some other people on their bench and said, "Oh my God, that guy right there is a stone cold shooter. Get in the game, can't knock down those shots." So I think that there's the adjustment period for the Celtics and the honeymoon for the Celtics is now over. I think the biggest thing they have to do is put these guys together and get ready to play for the last 20-minute stretch, those last 20 game stretches they're going to have.
So a couple more things I want to talk about with you before I let you go. And one league wide, more team, the other more team specific. So this was a couple weeks ago, I think. The NBA released its top 15 all-time coaches in no particular order, just a group. I'm sure you saw this. And the Celtics were well represented. You had obviously Red Auerbach, you had Casey Jones, you had Doc Rivers was on the list as well. And I looked at this list and I just thought,
wasn't Bill Fitch on that list?
Bill Fitch on the list as well. But you know, and deservedly so. But I looked at, and again, like, people love Doc. He's a great guy. He's a media darling. He's you know, he's just like people
won championship, right,
man. And presided over like multiple of the worst collapses in NBA playoff history that we've ever seen.
But people love Doc Rivers. You think of those personalities that you talk about. How many of those personalities you go, man, I could go out and drink a beer with that guy.
Sure.
Doc Rivers is one of those guys that, you know, you feel like you could. Do you feel comfortable at all if I told you, you know, Adam, go up there and talk to Greg Popovich real quick?
Exactly. It'd probably be a short conversation on his end.
Exactly. But Doc Rivers, you look at the number of games he's won to win the championship, the players how he's affected this league with that great team he had with the Celtics. And think about it, Kevin Garnett doesn't get hurt that next year. Celtics win another championship, and you know the franchise is again completely turned upside down once Kevin Garnett got hurt.
Sure, but that's, I mean, and maybe if Kendrick Perkins doesn't get traded for Jeff Green, I'd like that. But these are what ifs. This is a reality. The reality of this list to me, and seeing Doc on it, it doesn't fit. Like, I don't like. I think Doc is a woefully overrated coach. I think he's a good to very good coach. I don't think he's a great coach. I don't think he's an all-time coach, a top 15 all-time head coach.
That is a great question. Do I believe he's a top 15 all-time great coach?
I mean, that's what the NBA has told us. He's on the list.
I would say no. I think he is really good. I think that he's a great motivator. He's really good at X's and O's. But he's
a player's coach, you know, manages egos.
I think so with all those things you're saying, I think he's gotten another side. We will always remember Doc Rivers not only as the coach of this and then playing in this league, but we'll remember him for a line that he gave when he talked about Black people during the riots and said, all we want you to do is like us back. And that resonated not as a coach, but as a human being, and it went so far out. So I think part of his persona is bigger than the game itself. I don't think he's the best coach in the world. I think he's a long ways from the worst coach in the world, but I think that his overall persona has made him one of those top coaches we talked about.
All right, this one is you know, much more, I don't know, hits home with you maybe. I'm sure you've thought about this. I'm sure you've seen it all, you know, on social media, whether to maybe talk to your friends or even Grandy about it on the air. I'm not sure. So again, this weeks ago, but I haven't had you on this.
I'm going to jump the gun here.
Okay.
I am not one of the top 15 Celtics of all time.
All right. Well, listen, whether or not you believe you are, the Celtics put out its, you know.
Did I jump the gun then?
Well, you did jump the gun, but that's okay because there's more here. So here was the list for anyone that missed it in no particular order: Larry Bird, Paul Pierce, Dave Cowens, Kevin Garnett, Tom Heinsohn, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish, Bill Russell, Bob Cousy, Dennis Johnson, Sam Jones, Bill Sharman, John Havlicek, JoJo White. I lied. It wasn't a particular order. I saved this one for last. Ray Allen. This list came out and everybody almost universally reacted and went, what? Ray Allen? Like, I mean, only guy on the list that doesn't have his number in the rafters. You have your number in the rafters. Garnett will have his number in the rafters. I don't think Ray will. I really don't believe that, nor do I believe he should, by the way, which is that's an entirely different conversation. But Ray Allen being on the top 15, you want to say like just based on their NBA careers, sure. Like you and I have had that conversation about Garnett before. But if we're talking about what they did in a Celtics uniform, top 15 Celtics of all time, so many people reached out to me when I tweeted this list after the Celtics put it out on Twitter, saying like, how in the world is Cedric Maxwell, and there were a couple other people that were named as well, but how in the world is Cedric Maxwell not on this list before Ray Allen? I'm asking you, Cedric Maxwell, how are you not on this list before Ray Allen? Even if you don't think you should be on the list, you got to admit you're on the list before Ray.
No, I really don't. I love Ray Allen, and the reason I love Ray Allen is because I see Ray Allen as me, being one of those guys that you actually forgot how good he was. The Boston Celtics, in when they got together, it wasn't the big two, it wasn't Paul, it wasn't Kevin, it was Ray included in that. And I think he goes by the wayside for that. One of the greatest shooters the game has ever seen. Defended like a son of a gun that people don't even talk about his battles with Kobe Bryant. Hall of Famer, first round ballot Hall of Famer. I think that you're talking about longevity with the team and what you did with the team.
Yeah, it's a Celtics list.
I did win 2 championships with this team. I was a finals MVP. Could Ray that year when they played against the Lakers, could he have been a finals MVP?
Yeah, I think arguably he was, but he wasn't officially.
Yeah, but that's your point. He was so, but that's my point with him. He's been looked over. And I'm on the other page, and this is where you and I like each other. And the fact we're like the when I went to my divorce, I was arguing about a point with the judge, and he said, "Well, Mr. Maxwell, this is where you and I can agree to disagree, but I have more power than you." That's what he was saying to me. I don't feel like I have more power than you, but what I look at in Ray is that he is such a great player because people, and I think another thing for me is because people like me because I talked a lot too. My persona, my person. Ray really didn't give you a whole lot of that. Ray gave you one thing Ray gave you that, that even resonates today is the fact that you remember Ray Allen, 2.5 hours, 3 hours before game, getting shots up. His work ethic was unparalleled. And people always talk about, well, Kevin Garnett changed the culture of this team. Ray Allen helped change the culture of winning on this team. Mm-hmm. So that's why, I understand what you're saying about the years of service, but sometimes it's not the years of service. Sometimes it's the quality of that year, which might enable you to maybe step above others. But most of those names you talked about, all those names you talked about, were Hall of Famers. They were Hall of Fame players. And I don't think, did you mention, was Casey Jones mentioned in there?
I don't remember if I said Casey. I didn't say Casey and Sam. I said one of them.
I'm not sure if you said Casey, but then there was another, Sanders, who won multiple championships, who won 7 or 8 championships, who was a Hall of Famer. Is not on that top 15. So I don't have any. Here's the thing that I love about all this, Adam. The fact that you would mention my name, that's enough for me. I don't need any more other than I don't need to be like, when you are like right there, it's like people talk about me saying you could have been in a Hall of Fame. I'm not a Hall of Famer. I'm a really good player, but the fact that you mentioned the fact that I could have, that you thought about that I had a chance, that to me is already a win-win scenario. So I have no animosity about Ray getting to be a Hall of Famer over, as you said, over me. And matter of fact, if I was voting, I would have voted Ray in, because that's how I feel about Ray's game and what he brought to the table as a player. His work ethic, his ability to knock down big shots. He came in and changed. He came in and helped change the culture of a franchise that had been losing.
You know what the real problem is, Max, with lists in general, and I say this fully realizing that I am the one sitting here doing this, the problem with these lists is anytime that you read a list and you disagree with a list, whether it's Doc on the coaching list, Ray on the Celtics at 75 list, you have to argue for why a guy doesn't belong on the list, if that's your opinion, which sort of, leads to, like you were saying, leads to that takeaway of like, well, here's why this guy has gotten overlooked, and forcing someone to argue back the other way. And it just sort of becomes a referendum on a guy's either career or segment of his career, in Ray's case, where it just sort of makes you feel like a crappy human being.
Well, what does it say? What does it say when you're talking about a guy who's a first round ballot Hall of Famer?
Sure.
One of the greatest shooters we've ever seen, who took arguably one of the biggest shots in the history of the NBA to help LeBron James get another championship when he was down in Miami. Where does Ray really land at? If Ray is to get his, I'll ask you a question. If Ray is to get his jersey, if Ray is to go in the Hall of Fame, what jersey does he wear? That's my question to you.
What's funny about Ray, and I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, is that his career, at least his main three stops, Milwaukee, Seattle, Boston, before that time in Miami at the end, were so evenly split. He basically played his career in thirds, and then those last couple of years there. So it's hard to,
wow.
Like there's a chance it would be Boston just because of the championship. He didn't have his best years in Boston, but maybe it would be Boston just because of the championship. If we're up to him, it wouldn't be Boston. If we're up to him, I don't know. Is it Milwaukee?
I don't know. That's a question.
Like Kevin Garnett. Like Kevin Garnett would be in the Hall of Fame.
That's a question I posed to you.
Yeah, like KG though. If Springfield worked this way, like it does Cooperstown, if like Kevin Garnett, he would be in the Hall of Fame if it weren't up to him. If the league chose, he'd be in the Hall of Fame as a Timberwolf. If it were up to him, he'd be a Celtic, obviously.
How did he go in? How did he go in?
Well, you just go in as like Kevin Garnett went to the Hall of Fame. You don't go in.
I thought it's not like baseball where they put a jersey on you, or
no, you don't go like your bust or whatever in Naismith doesn't have a specific. It's just your whole career is written about on the plaque. Baseball, it's you're going in with a team, but yeah, they don't do that. They don't do that in basketball. Do you have a number on your jersey or not? I don't think so. No, I think it's your bust.
Garnett, basically. And that's it.
Yeah.
I thought you went in with a number. I mean, Russell did not go in with number 9, or whoever it is going in with these numbers. Did Michael Jordan go in with his number? Everybody
45.
Yeah. Does everybody remember going 23? I mean, does Kobe go in? Kobe, what number are you going in with, Kobe? It's just Kobe Bryant, period. So yeah, I do understand what you're saying, but that's a really tricky question that you think about, because I would love to know that, because if LeBron James, for instance, is going into the Hall of Fame, what jersey would he choose to have?
I mean, I think LeBron, and this is sort of LeBron the politician too. He'd go if it worked this way.
LeBron wear all three of them.
No. I was going to say it'd be Cleveland. It'd be the hometown team. Even though he didn't win his most titles there, he didn't necessarily have all his best seasons there. He had incredible seasons there, but you can obviously look at those 4 years in Miami and everything, and get into the finals every year. What he's done with the Lakers since. But I think Cleveland ultimately, I don't even think there'd be any hesitation, because he's just so, Cleveland born and bred like that, or Akron specifically, obviously. But that's him, even though he didn't spend his whole career there, that's him to his core. And by the way, like, we do believe, and we're way off topic, so we'll go in a sec, but we do believe LeBron is playing somewhere else, right? Like, whenever Bronny enters the league, and I've been saying this for years, whenever Bronny enters the league, LeBron's just going to go wherever Bronny gets drafted. Like, he's not a Laker until the end.
I know he wants to play with his son, and he says he wants to play with his son, but his business empire right now is in Los Angeles.
Is it? I mean, like,
Yeah, it is.
I just mean, like, in
It is from-
2022, your business empire,
I mean,
with technology being what it is, can exist
I understand
anywhere.
you're saying that, but your business empire with him, I think, is in Los Angeles because he wants to be around Magic. He wants to be, in that tinsel town where, things go on like that. I just believe that that's where he'd love to be.
Sure.
Maybe, maybe he does follow Bronny, but is Bronny going to be a role player? We don't see Bronny coming in like as a star in the NBA, do we? Not right now. You think about the talented guys. No, you would say, no, if I had to give you a dollar to a donut and going, is Bronny right now going to come in like his dad, be one of the top 10 players drafted? Will he be a late for right now? LeBron James' son right now in his talent level, would he be a first round pick?
Honestly, I don't know enough about his, high school career.
And that point is valid. If you don't know enough about it, then that would mean no. He's not
right. Yeah, I mean, obviously, like
he's not going to be a top 10 player.
Yeah, I mean, he gets the attention he gets because of LeBron, not because he, like LeBron, is viewed as this second coming.
Yeah. So I think that is because then again, hell, who knows what college player? I can't tell you a college basketball player right now in the country, period. I can't even tell you one. That's how far removed I am and how the NBA has kind of separated itself from that, because you see more players right now coming in from Europe. More players decided I'm not going to in the NBA. More players said, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna play in this NBA development league, and I'm gonna be under 19. I'm gonna play in that. So you don't know, who might be there, but will that ultimately be LeBron's last place to play, or would he follow Bronny? I don't, and I know he said that, but it's just hard for me to believe if LeBron James' son is taken with the second round, pick number 14 to 15 in the second round, and say he goes to Oklahoma City. Do you think that LeBron James will say, okay, I'm out of here and I'm going to Oklahoma to play with Bronny? No.
It depends how important it is to play with your kid, I guess. If you're LeBron, I mean, it's like, it's not the same because LeBron is still one of the greatest players in the world, but it just, like anyone else, makes me think of like Ken Griffey Sr. going to Seattle to play with Junior.
I knew you were going to say that. But did they want to play together, or was the senior follow Junior?
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. I think senior
followed Junior.
Yeah, I mean, because Junior was the LeBron. Junior was, the first overall pick.
Yeah, and we wouldn't have known who Ken Griffey Sr. was until he played great enough. But
yeah, I mean, he was a World Series champ with the Reds. He was a good player in his own right, but he wasn't Junior.
But he wasn't a Hall of Famer.
No, that's true.
All right, so that's true. I don't know if a Hall of Famer is going to follow a guy to me, and I'm not no knock on Bronny at all, but I don't see Bronny being that kind of player, and I can't see LeBron James. Just say LeBron James. Say Bronny got drafted by the Charlotte Hornets. You think LeBron is going to say, well, you know what, LA, I'm out of here. I'm going to Charlotte now. No, I don't see that. So I think he said the right things, but I don't know.
Well, LA is a total disaster anyway.
I don't believe it.
Max, we've taken basketball, more and more basketball into your All-Star break. Now you get to detox, you get to relax a little bit. Really appreciate you coming on the show though, and bug you here during the stretch run at some point.
All right, gentlemen, thank you for having me. I enjoyed your show. I wish I could let the fans in on a little bit of our talk with a shirt that you had on before. I asked you to change it, but maybe one day we'll get to that story with me.
Don't make me the bad guy. Yeah, I'm not
making you the bad guy.
Big tease. We'll save that for the next show.
No. Since we opened it up, we will say it. When he first came on, ladies and gentlemen, he had a shirt on and it said hope. And it looked like, I remember it was Barack Obama had the shirt hope, Well, this was a shirt that had hope on it, and it had
Brad Stevens.
Brad Stevens.
He was giving me so much faith and confidence in this
And
team.
I was like, dude, take that shirt off. take it off right now. I can see a person of color going, did you come on his show with him making a mockery of?
There was no mockery. Don't even.
I didn't say you, but
Okay.
I said some people would think that when they
Okay.
talk about shirts and things that happen. And
Sure.
you know, because some people take things religiously. You
True.
know, it's like Trump fans. They
Right.
take things religiously. If you came on with a Trump, just say, for instance, if you had a Trump shirt
If I came on wearing a MAGA hat.
yeah, and with me talking to you right now, how do you think I would feel?
Yeah, I mean, it's fair. It's fair.
Yeah, and that's a fair comparison. So I just wanted to pull the curtain back for our, our listeners and our viewers, just to kind of see some of the things we talk about and how we might change on the fly. But I did enjoy, our conversation. I'm
Always.
sure I'll check up and get up with you again.
Love it. All right. Thanks, Cedric Maxwell. Evan Valenti, our producer. He'll be back with us next week. Adam Kaufman. Remember, rate, review, subscribe on iTunes, all that good stuff. We'll talk to you again soon. Max, enjoy the break.